What's up, everyone? I'm Nick,
And I'm Em.
and welcome into the Ominous Archives. Here we are. It's episode 3. 3 whole weeks.
Crazy.
Yeah. And what's even crazier is the fact that we have listeners. Like, thank you guys for listening to us.
Yes, thank you.
It's insanely appreciated.
Very
and
much.
I mean, I'm blown away. We've listeners, obviously, like home state. But Massachusetts, North Carolina, Texas. Thank you guys. Like, I wouldn't even think that 3 weeks in we would have reached that far. I don't know what my expectations were, but whatever they were, you guys blew them out of the water.
I agree.
Oh, and the fact that we have a listener in Northern Ireland,
That is a crazy concept.
that is mind-blowing. So thank you all. It is greatly appreciated. And we're also going to apologize for Dudleytown. I'm sure some of you may have heard it. There was like some kind of weird echo or something. It must be cursed.
There is no must be. It is cursed. The Dudleytown episode is cursed.
We recorded it twice, and the first time, the whole episode was just one gigantic echo.
It was done. There was no salvaging it.
We thought it was something we did, so we were like, let's re-record this. We're kind of figuring out how all this works and like mic positioning and stuff. Recorded it. We went and edited it. The first time through listening, nothing. Put it up, echo. It's cursed. I don't know what to tell you guys. So
Can't fix it.
yeah, we appreciate you getting through that one.
Yeah.
And it's completely fine to be like, that was a bad one.
Blame
Great
the town.
episode topic, M. You killed the topic. It's just
Doesn't
cursed-
like me.
cursed town and cursed episode.
Yeah.
Also, we're gonna thank M. She brought us down a space heater.
I
So
did.
we're warm down here in the archives now.
And thank
it's
God
great,
for that.
right? No more bundling up in winter jackets and wool socks.
Down in the archives.
Yeah. So there's not even a real clean way to go from like wool socks or anything into, because, I mean, I guess it is. Because if you're out on the water, it's cold.
Yeah.
And for this archive, we're going to be talking about a boat. Now, this boat is on the Philadelphia waterfront down at Penn's Landing. It's a wooden boat. It's gigantic. If you've been down the Penn's Landing, you've definitely seen it. It just looks like it's straight out of like a story.
Yeah.
You know, you picture an old
It has
a boat.
history.
Yeah. So it's the Mushulu. If you've been there, you know it's a restaurant. It's got good food. I've been there. We'll talk about the food a little bit later. But this boat it's a sight to see in general if you go down there. The whole Penn's Landing area is an awesome place to go and see.
It is.
It's a great place to hang out.
Yeah, it's a really nice part of Philly for
yeah.
sure.
Definitely. They do the river rink down there.
Mhm.
I think they melt it in the summertime. Pretty sure they
The
melt it in the
Ferris
summertime. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna jump right into this here and start by giving you some history to just get the background and understanding.
Yeah.
I could go on forever with the history of it. It's not like it's tragic history or anything.
Yeah.
It does get kind of shitty at some points, but it just is a very vast history.
Mhm.
So this legendary ship is one of the world's oldest, largest, square-rigged sailing vessel that's still afloat.
Okay.
I think that just means it's a gigantic sailboat.
It's just huge sailboat. Which is
But
wild.
the size of the ship's massive.
Yeah.
It comes in at 359 feet in length, 47 feet wide, and it weighs about 3,116 gross tons.
Like, how does that float? Like, I know, obviously, it's a boat. Boats float. But, like,
Buoyancy.
it really just does not make sense in my brain.
Well, just to get back to our little cruise thing. The cruise stuff has, like, those boats have, like, I think they have, like, air pockets
Yeah.
in the bottom of them.
Mhm.
And the bottom of them are so vast, like, wide, which makes them, like, super stable. I think I saw a thing that says cruise ships could tilt almost 40, somewhere between 45 and like 65 degrees on their side before they flip.
That's
So
crazy.
you could almost go like way over. Maybe 65 is too far. Probably like 45.
Yeah.
But you could almost go flat before it
Wild.
would tip. And back to the Mushulu, which is not a cruise ship. It has 34 sails, which equals about 45,000 square feet in fabric used just to make the sails. The ship was built by a German ship company at the port of Glasgow in Scotland in 1904. This boat's
Old.
really old. It was originally called the Kurt. I'm going to say Kurt. I know it's German. There might be an accent on it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for anybody out there who wouldn't know how to pronounce that. It was a state-of-the-art sailing ship for shipping cargo products, which were coal, coke, and nitrate. Not cocaine, not the drugs. Apparently, coke is a bystander or a byproduct of coal. So,
I just assumed.
I did the same thing. When I read coke,
okay.
I was like, Coca-Cola, cocaine.
What are we talking here?
Nah, it's a byproduct of
Wasn't
coal.
cocaine originally in Coca-Cola?
I have no idea. I've heard that rumor.
that's why
I
it's
never
called
did
coke.
the...
Maybe I made that up.
You
Whatever.
might, I don't know. But the shipping route took her around Cape Horn, like around, I believe it's Australia, 54 times without any incident.
Slay,
While
girl.
it had 35 men, like crew, on board.
Good for her.
Which was apparently a thing for that time. Like,
Yeah.
that's a big number.
Big boat.
It did it,
Big sailboat.
yeah,
Like,
and it did it 54 times in 8 years.
yeah.
So it's like, that's moving.
Yeah, do
that
the
ship
math.
was just like... In 1912, its routes changed, and in 1917, it ended up in Oregon to bring grain, back to Scotland when World War I broke out. Now, at this point, the U.S. Navy said, "Hey, that's now our boat."
Of course.
So they took her booty, and commission, and renamed her Dreadnought, which meant fearless. And
they could have given her a better name.
yeah, I know. I was kind of like, okay. I did get a lot of this info from the Mushulu's website. They have like a history thing on there.
Oh,
They
that's
go
cool.
to like with the dates and everything. They do go a little bit more in depth
Yeah.
of what everything was happening. I'm just trying to give you an
Broad.
overview. Yeah, kind of like a hey. So the ship did get its last name of the Mushulu from Miss Woodrow Wilson, which was Woodrow Wilson's wife. So she's a first lady, which is kind of cool
That
to
is
be able to name it.
Yeah.
And now, like, I didn't know where it got its name. Now I do.
Now you know.
She named it that to honor a member of the Seneca tribe. The name Mushulu means one who fears nothing.
Slay. Love that.
So then the Mushulu now won the last grain race in 1938.
Go, girl.
So I'm sure you know everything about grain
Oh,
races. right?
yeah. I'm a
Right.
genius when it comes to that.
So this is like, there's like shipping companies now who are like, oh, we're the fastest next
Mhm.
day, blah, blah, blah. Well, they use commercials and stuff to do that. Back then they didn't have that.
Right.
So they did a actual race. So all the ships who were loading grain, they loaded them up with about 59,000 pound bags of grain, and it weighed about 4,875 tons. And the Mushulu, won this race. She hit record speeds of 16 knots, and she made it from where the grain race started to where it ended in just 91 days.
Look at her. Look at her go.
This
Big
ship
fan.
was awesome.
Big fan of this ship.
Mhm. So in 1942, the Mushulu was then trapped in Norway by the Nazi forces, which is kind of interesting
That is
because
kinda crazy.
they confiscated her, stripped her of her masts and spars. Not exactly sure what a spar is. I don't know.
Free my girl.
But it's interesting that they confiscated their own ship back.
Yeah.
Right?
That is weird.
I didn't know, weird. The whole, international waters boating stuff. That's the maritime law. Don't understand it.
Yeah.
Never really looked into it,
Beats
but I don't know
me.
anything about it.
Absolutely beats me.
So now at this point, we're in the 40s and 50s. The Mushulu it hits its, downtime where we have a bunch of incidents.
No.
There's a bunch of just mishaps, problems and stuff like that happen. But the worst being she broke her moorings and capsized near a beach close to
the score of Narvik in 1947.
No.
Mhm. Yeah. But she was refloated
Slay.
and she was put into an early retirement at that point. Hey, it's
Put her in
time
a
to,
home.
yeah, put her in the home. There we go. At this point now, she was purchased and restored to her original glory, destined to become a museum restaurant, right? Purchased by a U.S., a businessman in the U.S.
Yeah.
She began her new journey in South Sea Port in New York, but was moved to Philly in 1974.
Dang.
There was then a 4-alarm fire in 1989, which then gave the Mushulu an uncertain fate. They weren't really sure.
Right.
I didn't know. Apparently a 4-alarm fire, second highest. 5-alarm, I believe, is the highest. And from what I've heard, doing like the research on this, 4-alarm means like there was like 4 companies there. It took four is like your thing. That's
Mhm.
going to be your 4 companies, 4, I want to say hoses, but obviously there's probably more than 4
Probably more.
hoses. You know what I mean? Something
Yeah.
like that.
I gotcha.
Not into the fire world.
Yeah.
Don't know that.
Very
Would be
ignorant on that subject.
very open to anyone sending us the info to let us know exactly what a
Somebody
4-alarm
knows.
fire would be. So it has its uncertain fate, but luckily it did get last reno of $11 million
Whew.
and reopened its doors in 2003.
Let's go.
So it's now an award-winning AAA diamond-rated restaurant and bar. The food is amazing. I have eaten on the ship.
That's crazy.
It gives you vibes like you're kind of stepping back through time.
Yeah.
When you go up the gangway into the boat,
Mhm.
like it's just a different feel. It's very cool. You feel like you're set back then. Again, the food was great
Really?
when I had it. Yeah.
Interesting.
There were a couple things on the menus where I was kind of like, I don't know what that is, but we're going to risk it and get it.
Yeah.
And it was delicious.
Huh.
It ended up, I think, being like kind of like a fancy cheese plate.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff that, like restaurants do.
All
It's
right.
not in English. It was in like Italian or something
Yeah,
like that.
that's cool, actually.
So shame on me for not reading. But
Do your research.
the food was good anyway.
5 out of 5.
So now we have the history of it. We'll get to some of the spooky stuff.
Spooky.
I know all that history was a lot, but I did try to paraphrase best I could. If you're interested in digging, you want to know a little bit more about the boat, visit the Mushulu's website. They do have that history page. There is definitely a lot more details of what was going on. And it also gives you a way if you want to try and reserve a seat or anything like that. It's a good
Yeah,
website.
now I feel like
It's got some history. It is a very good. It's great. With this great history, there are some things that did happen. Nothing's dated very well.
Right.
Obviously, the ship's been around since 1904. Like some documents and stuff like that have been lost and everything.
You're on a
But-
ship, too. Like,
Yeah.
of course that stuff's getting lost.
So it's said that through the history, there's been anywhere from 28 to 30 people who have died aboard the ship.
Pretty high number.
Yeah, there's not much about whether like 28 to 30 people died all at once or if
Yeah.
this was just kind of through time. I would think it's probably just through time.
Which I feel like still is
Still a lot
too
of
much
a lot of
for
people.
my liking.
Yeah, think about it. 1904 to 2024,
you're right.
it's still floating down there at Penn's Landing.
Yeah, that is crazy.
So the haunting of the ship didn't just start recently. It started way back when there were still crews who were aboard the ship, and it's still active with hauntings to today. The crews used to report strange things happening, from like intense women's laughter to voices in the rigging out on the deck. And there are even reports of, like, back then they would use candles to light things and stuff. They would extinguish the candles when they were done with them. They would come back and the candles would be relit. So we're going to kind of hit all 3 of them. We'll start with what is called the Lantern Ghost, as it's become the known.
I knew you meant.
Yeah, getting tongue-tied. It's been a long day. There are around 50 or more tables in the dining area, and each one has a lantern on it. They don't light the lanterns during the day, obviously. The problem with that is that they'll go to seat people, and the lanterns are lit. Now, none of the staff lights them. They're not, they're They're told not to light them because it's daytime.
Right.
They don't light them, so they'll extinguish it. The people will sit down, have their meals. But then, as the final guests trickle out, and the staff will start their closing process, blow out all the lanterns, finish their final checks, and get ready to like turn the ship over to the overnight crew who were on there, they'll go back into the dining room one last time, make that final check, and there are lanterns that are relit again.
Like, I would quit.
I mean, it's kind of harmless,
that's
but
freaky. Like, that is so freaky.
it's not that freaky.
It is. Don't lie. Like, that's scary. You go out yourself, blow out every single one of those candles. You go back, you're closing out your checks or whatever, and you go back out and they're all lit. No.
It does
I'm
make it a
quitting.
little like freaky because it did have that 4-alarm fire.
Yeah.
But
That, ooh, I didn't even think about that. That is kind of freaky.
yeah, they don't have anything. The ghost and that, like the ghost does
Yeah.
not set the 4-alarm fire. From
But
what I found.
crazy.
It is
coinky
crazy. Yep. It is weird. Some of the staff, they try to like catch other, like the overnight shift
Yeah.
or other people on their shift, like playing a prank on them and being like, shh, we're going to relight the candles and you're going
Because
to freak out.
that's exactly what I would think.
So they'll try and like hide out or like just be on the other side of the door while they're doing their final stuff and like
Mhm.
to peek over, and they'll turn around and look and the lanterns will be relit. And they know for a fact that there was nobody else in there because they were just, they were,
Right.
when you walk in, there's kind of like a main mast kind of in the floor, it's got to support that somehow. And then you go to the right and there's like an entrance to the dining that way. But you could also go around and go to the backside. So there's like 2 doors.
Mhm.
They were like on the other side of that doorway and they know there's nobody back there. These lanterns somehow relight.
Like, yeah, I'm quitting. Sorry. Like, no place is worth that much of a check.
So that wouldn't necessarily that would put me on edge and kind of be like weird.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about that because I don't want the boat to burn down or
Mhm.
anything. But I don't think that would be my end all be all where I'd be like, I'm out. I gotta go.
You're too naive.
Well, now we can talk about the second ghost.
Of course.
So the second ghost, they say, could be an old sailor or a captain, as this voice comes down from the mast, or they say superstructures. So I'm just assuming it's like
Big part.
pieces, yeah, the big pieces of the boat. With this ghost, it won't matter whether it's day or night.
Mm.
When you're on the
That freaks me out. Like,
Yeah,
if
they could be
they're, like,
whenever you
so
want.
brazen,
Yep.
they're like, I'm coming out in the daytime.
Mhm.
Okay.
So it's when you're on the like top deck. They have a like last time I was there, it was just kind of like a bar area,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you could like kind of walk the full length of the ship or if that was part of the museum. But when you're up on the top deck outside, you'll hear light words like somebody's talking to you, but the words are always unintangible.
I've
Wow.
never in my life been able to pronounce that word.
I don't think I'll
Didn't even
ever
know
be
that
able to.
that's- Oh, I didn't even know that's
So
how you
we'll-
pronounce it.
We'll go easier.
That was
You
funny.
can't understand the words.
Let me paraphrase it real quick.
There we go. But you'll know it's a voice.
Yeah.
You'll hear it's a voice. Now, some people, they say the ship talks when the tides are changing because it's going to like rub up against the moorings and like where it's like docked at, it'll rub against that and like some stuff in the water will rub against it and it'll make like groaning noises and stuff.
Mm.
But the people who hear this voice are like, no, you can hear the difference because the boat is like a moaning or like a groaning, whereas like this is like somebody trying to talk to me. I can hear it.
Yeah.
You can tell. I just don't know what they're saying. So that's the ghost in the moorings and not the moorings. That's the ghost in the masts. Now there's a third ghost that I found when I was reading the Ghosts of Philadelphia book.
Mm.
This third ghost is the woman who was laughing.
Hate that.
So in 1998, there was a medium who was brought to the ship. The owners and captain they didn't plan it. They didn't know she was coming. Somebody just brought her.
Mhm.
She didn't even she just stepped onto the gangway, which is like that ramp to
Yeah.
go into the boat, and she felt a presence right away. So right off the
Quick
bat,
with it.
she was like, "It's definitely not a deckhand. It's not an old captain, but she has the feel of a woman."
Hmm.
So the medium said that the woman seemed to be like dressed as if she was like a stowaway, or if she was like trying to impersonate a sailor. So maybe she was like impersonating a sailor for work.
Yeah.
She also said that like there were strange circumstances around her demise, but it didn't seem like she killed herself or she was murdered.
Right.
There's just something weird about how she died. But she also said that she didn't feel that this woman was mean or aggressive, but more of
Okay.
like a person who's like deeply interested in the sea. So she's just aboard the ship wanting to, see the sea and everything. She's said to be laughing from the woman's like bathroom. There was a staff member who was like closing down one night and walked by and heard this like woman like hysterically laughing in the bathroom and was like,
No.
there's a customer in here. I gotta like, So he opened the door, but he's like, I don't want to go in there
Yeah.
because I don't want to interrupt anybody.
Mhm.
But so he kind of was like, hey, like, we're closed. I have to ask you to leave. And all of a sudden, like, the lights like went out and it went quiet.
Nope.
And they never seen anybody leave the bathroom. They ended up having somebody go in
Right.
to inspect, and there was nobody in the bathroom. So somebody was like, the manager or whatever was kind of just like, oh, you're hearing things or
Mhm.
whatever. And he was like, I know what I heard. And somebody went through and checked it out. There wasn't nobody there.
No.
So they are the 3 ghosts that are still active down there at the Mushulu. So if you ever are in Philadelphia on the Penn's Landing area, there's so much to do down there. They have there's a museum down there that's not the Mushulu. I think it's a maritime museum. There's like a ice cream thing. They're in the like shipping containers. They kind of repurpose shipping containers into like restaurants. Last time I was there was like an ice cream shop. There's a Chicky and Pete's. A couple other restaurants. There was like a taco
Truck
place.
thing.
And then you have like the Mushulu. There's also, I believe it's called the Spirit of Philadelphia, which is another boat that you can go on and have dinner, but it like takes you up and down the Delaware. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, that is cool.
So that area is very cool.
Jam packed.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in that like city block stretch.
Mhm.
There's a lot of stuff. But the Mushulu is definitely just seeing it. I actually believe too next to the Mushulu or like in front of it, there might be a submarine.
I was literally just.
I think
gonna
there is
say
a submarine
either
down
I'm
there,
tripping
too.
Or there's
No,
something
there's.
else.
I think there's a submarine down there, and you
Mhm.
can take tours of that sub too. I don't know what submarine it is,
Yeah.
but just to close up with the Mushulu, we do have some cool information that the website did give me as far as like the Mushulu being a movie star. The Mushulu was seen in the movie Rocky.
No way.
Yeah, it was shown during one of his like workout montages. So you
That
watch
actually
that, and then you're
doesn't
like, I
shock
gotta
me.
go work out.
Yeah.
When you watch that, when he's doing a session along the Philadelphia waterfront, the
Mhm.
Mushulu's in the background.
That's funny.
It was also in The Godfather Part 2 when they bring young Vito Corleone to America in the early 1900s. That's the boat. As well as at the end of the scene of the movie Blowout. Apparently it's in that.
Crazy.
And it was just recently in an episode of The Housewives of New York.
Really?
So
Love the Housewives.
not only has this ship seen
She's a movie star.
crazy history and is now a great restaurant to go eat at, it's also a movie star.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. And if you're ever in the area, it's definitely something you have to go see, get reservations at, or just go walk around there and check it out. There's a bunch of stuff down there to do. That's gonna wrap up the Mushulu.
Very good pick. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you did a great job.
Good. Oh, thanks.
Oh,
Hopefully
of course.
everybody else thinks so. As always, thank you guys for listening, and check us out on Instagram at
Ominous Archives.
X.
Ominous Archives.
And if you have a story you want to share, you want to just get in touch with us, you can email us at
ominousarchives@gmail.com.
All right, everyone. That wraps it up for us down here in the archives. We are going to turn our space heater off and catch you guys next week. See ya.
See ya.